links on Instagram and Facebook because I'm getting a couple of folks saying, I can't get through. All right, so we are here to talk about home-based education. It said click to join here. Thank you, Charity. Is that what people need to do in order to hop on? Say click to join here. So for the folks who maybe catching me on the other live feeds, the notes from the participants are saying click to join here. That's what should happen in the email, and the password is yes I can. Yes I can is the password for this call. So welcome all to these beautiful familiar faces that I see. Thank you for being here. To the faces that I've never seen before, thank you for being here. My assistant Gloria is on this call as well, so if you see her hopping in to help facilitate in some way, that's who that is. She's a trusted source. She's not trying to hijack anything. She's my helper. And she's also pretty quiet, so she may not say much at all, but she is here to help if we need her. And I was saying at the beginning of the call that the reason that I wanted to do this in the first place was because I was meeting lots of folks, encountering lots of people in the last couple of days who were looking kind of like deer in headlights, shell-shocked at all the news coming from everywhere, and folks who were just completely overwhelmed at the idea of having the kids at home. So I know that we see this, you guys, people know what it feels like to have kids at home in the summertime, and that feels like a whole new ball game. Then having the kids home and also working is happening, and also you now have these sort of mandates that are coming down from various school systems to teach this, and this in this way. So because I don't know where everybody's coming from on this call, I'm going to ask you all to just put in the chat box so that I have a clear understanding of who exactly I'm talking to. Put in the chat box where you're from, where you're joining us from, and how many kids you have and what their ages are. Just so I can kind of get a sense of who's here. I see some educators in the group, so y'all feel free to chime in as well. The goal for this call is really just to get us all calm and centered around the idea of managing, working. I know I'm a working mom, so working and facilitating. I like to think of it as facilitating home-based education. So we'll just start with that notion. It's not this idea of, oh my gosh, now you are the teacher. You are the person who's 100% in charge of everything. If it doesn't work, it's all your fault. You have to teach the hard subjects. You have to teach the things that you don't have mastery in. You have to be the foremost expert. We're going to unlearn that idea and try to relearn the perception of I'm facilitating, right? Partnering with our kids and being curious about the things that they're curious about and finding ways to connect them to the resources that do have the expertise that is most helpful. So let me just have a chance to look over here and see who's who and who's coming from where. Okay, Maggie's in Richmond, twin boys, twin mamas in the house. Ages 6, so we've got elementary school ages, kindergarten this year. 3 kids, 12, 8, and 5. Dog in a busy life. I know what that's like. Lulu, 9 and 7. Okay, Charlottesville, Giant Crossroads, 8, 5. Okay, so we have, lots of twins. Somebody's got 2 sets of twins? My goodness. Bless your heart. You kept going. Can everybody hear me? Can y'all hear? I see y'all laughing. I can't hear y'all, but that's all right. I want to hear from you in a second. 9th and 5th, learning differences. Okay. All right. Awesome. So is everyone getting from their schools? Bear with me because I'm also getting an understanding of what's happening in the school system. I'm interfacing with a lot of fear with people, and I don't know exactly what's happening in the school system, but I can tell you what to do and how to manage the inside of the house. So giving me some feedback on what kind of things are happening in the school. Are you getting emails from the teachers? Are you what's happening? What is it that is going on. I know that, there's the decision came down, at least in my locale, that schools are going to be closed for the next couple of weeks. And teachers are asking kids to finish up work. So is there an online platform? Is there a set curriculum? Are there certain teachers that are showing up in different ways? How is this going for folks? I'll give you a chance to answer that. And while you're answering that, I'm also curious about your fears. So even the folks here on the live feeds, if you have interest in sharing what is going on over in your neck of the woods, how old are your children? Where are you signing in from? What are your fears? What's coming through to you from the school systems? Nothing's coming through. Okay, so they're working on it. Not received anything yet. Teachers are working on it. Okay, so is there though this general sense? Is that true? Because I know I've dealt with people in person. Is the general sense that things are coming down the pike and you're going to have to facilitate an online sort of based curriculum, or you're going to have to kind of figure it out on your own? What is being said? Mostly online tools, no specific curriculum. Okay, handouts sent home, but nothing online yet. Waiting. Okay, great. All right. So it sounds like you guys are all in the same sort of space. Okay, no general curriculum. Okay, that's great. I feel like that's even better. What are fears? Are people coming into this particular call with fears? I'm curious about this. This is all helping me with context. So list anything out here. What are you currently struggling with when you think about all of this? When you think about the next couple of weeks, the next month or so with your kids at home, what are you thinking about? Okay, this is good. Lots of online links. Okay, dashboard. That looks helpful. No school until fall is a fear. Doing it alone, having to work full time. Okay. Yeah. Adele's excited to work with her kids. Awesome. How much time you're going to have to devote to ensuring children following suggested links, monitoring their time, etc. Fears how to manage the little ones when the big ones are doing schoolwork. Want to include them, but they're 4. Totally valid. Just for some context, while those fears are still coming in, for those of you that don't know, I have 5 kids. One of them recently joined my family, but I birthed 4. So their ages, the youngest 2 are 7. Then I have a 10-year-old, I have a 12-year-old, and I have a 16-year-old. So I have high schooler, have middle schooler, have elementary schooler, have first graders. So, and I've been homeschooling for the last 12 years. I say 12 years because we officially registered as homeschoolers in kindergarten years, but we began approaching this idea of basing home as the educational base in the second year of life with our first child. I like to keep my children on course to learn what they need to during the spring semester. I also like to keep our family centered. We're not always very good at handling stress. Okay. So what I'm hearing are schedule management issues. I'm hearing fears around what's going to happen in the spring. And then I'm hearing fears around stress. Lots of emotions, lots of transitions, keeping everybody centered. Okay. So this is really one of the main reasons why I wanted to host this call, is this idea of centering, because really it's hard to navigate any space outside ourselves with grace and ease when we are not in a place of being centered. And so the idea of facilitating, not necessarily assuming the role of teaching everything your child needs to learn, but being the facilitator, it's ideal and optimal to do that when you are in a space of being centered and grounded and calm, and carrying that with you throughout your day, with no matter what's happening around you. So those of you who have multiple children can attest to this idea of having like all these different questions and comments and, oh, mama, I want to show you, mama, 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 oh, but mama, 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 like all at one time, or daddy, daddy, daddy. I see we have some papas on these calls as well, and some parents. I'll just call you parents, like, right? Your kids are coming at you all at one time. The idea that I want to impart to you this evening is this concept of having agency and awareness of a sort of domain for yourself. I like to call it the personal power seat. So you're navigating from this space and moving from that space at all times. So it may not be that you are always aware of it 100% of the time, but the idea is that you know that it's there. You know that when you can be in this zero pull sort of posture inwardly, that you can respond to this mama, 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 daddy, 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 whoever it is that they're calling you, and your text messages are alerting, and your emails are alerting, and the news is scrolling, and all these things are happening, and the voices are chattering off in your head, that you're able to come to your power seat and respond to all these external stimuli in a way that gives you pace so that you can deal with one thing at a time, one child at a time, one text message at a time, one task at a time on your to-do list. And so being able to bring awareness to the state of your body, awareness to how you're feeling. Are you cared for? Are you hydrated? Are you nourished? So these questions that we ask ourselves preemptively, that's the ideal. But then maybe we need to take big reactive steps, right? At some point, if we get way too overwhelmed. So being able to bring awareness to the personal power seat. So now that I have a general sense of who's here, how old everyone's kids are, what our fears are, I want to invite you to join me in this very just abbreviated grounding exercise. So I don't know, maybe you've already been to you've maybe had some breathing exercise experiences in a yoga class or a mindfulness class, but that's one of the things that is like a pillar for, I know myself as I move through with my children, with the work that I do as not just a coach, but managing several businesses at once. There's always a lot of plates spinning. And so one of my main tools is the breath. So I want to guide you through an exercise, and it'll be really short, and then we'll jump into things like logistics. So if you're here with me, I just want you to just take a moment and plant your feet. If you're sitting down, find the bottoms of your feet. Let the bottoms of your feet find the floor. When the bottoms of your feet find the floor, let your seat, your bottom, or your sit bones find the place that you're sitting, and bring awareness to what's holding you up. And just kind of find a place that feels like zero pull. So you're not being pulled too far to the right or the left, the front or the back. Let your palms rest in a place that's comfortable. You may notice the difference if you face your palms towards the sky. And if you're comfortable too, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze, whatever feels good to you. And what I want you to do is to very slowly inhale through your nose and imagine your lungs filling all the way to capacity, as deep as you can draw the breath. I want you to draw it. And then after you've drawn it in, I want you to hold it for 2 seconds. I'm going to walk you through this just really quickly, and then I'll let you do it. Hold it for a couple of seconds, and then we're going to exhale very slowly, emptying the lungs all the way down to the stale air at the bottom of the lungs. We're going to do this 3 times. We're going to do it for counts of 4, holding for 2, exhaling for 4. Ready, and inhale. Hold for 2, exhale. Inhale for 6. Hold. Exhale for 6. Inhale for 8. Hold. Exhale for 8. Now I want you to bring awareness to the way your body feels. Bring awareness to your shoulders. If you have sensed any sort of release anywhere in your body, I want you to notice that. If you don't sense the release, I want you to notice that too. If you need to take more breaths, do that again. But I want you to really get deep in your cellular memory what it feels like to be in this space of calm, to be in this space of zero pull. Nothing's pulling you to the right, to the left, to the front, to the back, too high or too low. I want you to feel that grounding. And then I want you to imagine that is a seat of sorts for you. So however you want that seat to look, it can be a throne that you're resting on. It could be a pallet on the floor. It could be, imagine yourself somewhere scenic, something that calls to you and feels like it resounds with a sense of power, a sense of rest, a sense of calm. And I want you to really let that feeling sink in, because this is what you're going to carry with you and have it in your pocket. It may not be right on your sleeve, but you're going to have it as a place that you can source yourself to when you need to, when it's stressful, right? So as you're thinking about managing your schedule, managing your day, managing your children, managing home and the things that home needs, just remember what this feels like. And I actively go into a breathing exercise of this sort when I notice that I feel tension in my body. So bringing awareness to what it feels like to hold tension in the jaw, to hold tension in the neck, to hold tension in the hands or the wrists. So maybe you're talking to your child. Maybe you are listening to your child. Maybe you're on the line with an administrator or you're emailing someone. When you begin to feel tension in the body, right, we're moving further and further away from that place of grounding and calm. And when you notice that, there's an opportunity. Nobody has to know. You can just pause, take a beat, and inhale once or twice, right? Inhale, exhale once or twice, and then take that beat and consider what your next step will be. So when we think about power, right, we have this idea of power that comes in a disempowering way, or power that comes disempowering to other people or empowering to other people. So when we think about the young people in our lives and our children, I'm sure we all want to empower them. We all want to offer our children opportunities and tools that make them feel empowered, that don't leave us feeling depleted and disempowered. So when we're operating from our personal power seat, we're able to do that more. We're able to notice when we feel triggered by something our children are doing, or something someone else is doing, or something that has stimulated us outside of or external to our children. We can bring so much awareness to ourselves when we know what it feels like to be calm, and we notice when we're not. So those grounding techniques like the breath, right? And being able to be fierce about protecting that personal power seat. So when we talk about self-care, I'm curious, what are you all doing when you hear about self-care? What do you think about? How does that hit you? Are you offended by the phrase self-care? How does it hit you? Because when I think about self-care, I'm curious about what you want to think about, but I have been able to change my perspective into one where I see it as absolutely necessary, right? Like I see this notion of, okay, here I am, Yolanda, age 38, mothering 5 children, managing 4 businesses, waking up to my day, everyone needing me, all these things coming at me, right? And in order for me to give from this place that I need to give from for my children, for my sons, for my daughters, for my colleagues, for the people who I am employing, I have to be able to have a place to give from. So I used to have this mostly reactive, because still now I'm still reactive, right? It's not 100% sort of flawless type of thing. We're never always, right, perfectly on. But I'm learning the value of being preemptive in my self-care strategies and rituals. And self-care for me is maybe sometime including things like a bubble bath or a shower, but more so for me, it's boundary setting. It's empowered communication. It's being able to say things that give me space to breathe and space to think. And so I want to hear what you all think about self-care. All right. Alone time. Yes, because stimulation is so real. Overly stimulated. You can be overly touched when you're a mama or a papa. You can have just sensory overload. Too many things to hear, too many things to see, too many things to smell, too many questions. It's just too much. So having that alone time is important. Sitting, reading, coloring. Adele's talking about ritual, working out, reading, and creating. So absolutely. Naps. Somebody said naps on the live feed, nourishing the self. Tea and therapy, walking. Absolutely. Self-care, staying organized, keeping the space beautiful, having space to be creative. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yes. So absolutely. I know for me, my self-care things are very much like yours. So I have morning rituals that when I'm not completely exhausted and sleeping in, I have my desk set up in a certain way so that I can get up in the morning. 5:45 is my time. I'm getting up. I have 15 minutes to transition myself to wide awake or awake enough to show up to my desk where I had set up the night before, my pen the way I want it to be, my notebooks the way that I want it to be, my timers. I light a candle. I like candles. Candles help me ground. I also have an altar space, and that works for me. So I open my blinds because I want to see the sun rising when it comes in. These are things that help me ground and center, and ritual is important. So whatever the ritual is for you, it kind of gives you a space to structure how you want to move, right? So as a working parent or as someone who is having to negotiate, all right, how do I divide up my time between taking care of myself and taking care of these babies? What do I need to do? So you absolutely need to focus on you first, right? I don't care how much your brain says, I'll take care of me after I take care of everybody else. I'll serve myself food after everybody else is eaten. I'll get my stuff to drink or whatever after I make sure everybody else is taken care of. I don't care how much your brain says that. We're going to unlearn and relearn. Unlearn and relearn. What it means to pour ourselves something to drink first, set our stuff over to the side if need be, fix our plate first, right? Set it to the side if need be, and then serve everyone else's plates as well. Take care of ourselves in the morning first. If that means you need to get up earlier, if you can do that, if you're in a space where you can, because some of us are in seasons maybe where we can't get up at 5:45 or 4 or 6. That's way too early. If that doesn't work for you, then find the time that works best for you and carve it out. Also know that in the morning, if it doesn't work to have that ritual in the morning time, being able to do things throughout the day that help to ground you and to center you. So things like someone mentioned taking a nap. If you have the space to do that, naps are essential. Sleep is restorative. Absolutely. Having things on hand, things that you can see. Someone mentioned having a beautiful space. Now I'm going to be real with y'all. All right. I have 5 children at home with me. Okay. 2 of them are 7-year-old boys. And so as much as I set my home up to be immaculate, and as much as I teach them about home hygiene and stewardship, they get a little crazy, especially lately here when we've been stuck in the house. How many of y'all have been quarantined? Are y'all quarantined where y'all are? We have self-imposed quarantine because our family is so big and our work is so public. So we have been home, right, for more time than we usually are. And we live hard in our spaces because we have been homeschooling for so long. Like, this is where we spend a lot of time, but we're spending even more time here now. So the beautification of the space isn't like a long time ago. I had to adjust my beauty standards personally, me. So if anybody else can attest to that, go ahead and raise your hand or raise your hand inside your heart. Okay, whatever feels good. All right, so maybe we can't. And so self-care in that instance is releasing the version of you or releasing the version of your home that existed last week, 2 months ago, 3 years ago, 7 years ago, before you had those 7-year-olds, right? You got to release that and bring yourself on into the present. And then that is a self-care measure, because now you're not holding yourself to the misery of trying to uphold standards that are unrealistic, right? They aren't realistic anymore. You have these little people who you can't, that will be exhausting for you. And it would be exhausting for them to constantly be trying to keep them, just regimented in the way that they just maybe aren't developmentally ready to act out just yet. So maybe that isn't your case. If it is not your case, that's awesome. Kudos to you. Come teach my baby something. If not, let that be okay. Okay, so, but even if your space is not going to be 100% immaculate, having things around that feel good to you. So for me, I have these little succulent plants. You can't see my desk right now, but I have a plant that I water. I actually have little succulent babies that I've propagated all over the house. And they help me they just give me a little something to see, right? That doesn't look like what my kids are doing or what they've created. So having little things around that help keep you inspired. I have soap in my house that is especially inspiring to me. I like citrus scented things. So at my sink, if we've all just been cooking and the kitchen is crazy, I may escape to my restroom where I have a grapefruit scented soap, or my bathroom in the guest room where something smells really good. And I will take my sweet time washing my hands and inhaling, especially now, right? We're all washing our hands a bunch. But if you can take the time to have something in there, an essential oil or something that helps you to ground and center yourself, brings awareness to, okay, I'm here, I'm right now, this smells so good, it reminds me of beautiful things, it gives me energy, right? So little things like that, keeping things that inspire you nearby you. And so we're talking about ritual, we're talking about self-care, and self-care being so important as we are protecting our personal power seat. So now I wanted to offer you some power phrases, some things to say to the babies, right? Some things to say to kind of guide your language as you are moving through navigating and negotiating what may feel very overwhelming, which is having children with you so much more than you thought you'd have them with you, and also answering to perhaps a boss or colleagues. And so there's a lot of people talking to you. So being able to know how to give yourself room. Again, right? We're thinking about that personal power seat, giving yourself space to think. So some things that I like to say to myself and say to my kids, for instance, if I'm dealing with different age groups and maybe the 16-year-old is complaining about the 7-year-olds, or the teenager or the middle schoolers are complaining about the other middle schooler or the elementary schooler, right? I say to myself and I remind them, this is completely age appropriate, right? So we're not holding unrealistic expectations of each other. They're not holding unrealistic expectations. I'm not personally, maybe I can't say it out loud if I'm one-on-one with the child and they're throwing a huge tantrum, right? This is completely age appropriate. Inside myself, I'm saying, right? So I'm not trying to make them be much older than they actually are. I'm reminding myself that in this moment, I'm dealing with a 7-year-old who has been earthside for 7 years, who is still learning about language, still learning about boundaries, who knows a lot and who's very wise, very intuitive, right? In their own way and in their own space, and also has much to learn. So I need to release and to take down just a little bit and say things like, to myself, this is completely age appropriate, okay? And then we're overwhelmed with all the inquiries from everybody, and everyone is vying for your attention. I like to say things like, what you have to say is important to me, right? Letting them know that what you have to say is important to me. I need a minute to blank, fill in the blank, whatever that is, so that I can give you my full attention. So you're acknowledging that this person is here, you see them, you're important to me. Just give me a second to fill in the blank, and then you'll be able to pay attention. You'll be able to give them the full attention back. So I get overwhelmed really easily if I am listening to 5 people talk to me at one time, which happens often in my house. And so I will be very transparent and say, too many questions at one time. I'm feeling overwhelmed. All right, let's try to hear from you, and then you, and then you, and then you. So in my language, I am making sure that I'm talking to my children and treating them like humans, giving them dignity and respect, and also giving myself space to think, right? Too many questions, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and then I'm facilitating. I do want to hear from you, then you, then you, then you. Okay? When we think about facilitating, again, and this idea of partnering with our children versus taking on the complete role of being their teacher of all things, let's be curious about this together, right? So I'll say things to my kids like, let's be curious about this together. And that's everything from, Mama, how do I open this package? To, Mama, who wrote the Constitution? How many people, right? Mama, how many places can I see, like all of the capital cities of all the countries and states everywhere there are in the world? Let's be curious about this together. Mama, what's ornithology? Let's be curious about this together. So I am creating space to partner with my child to go and do the research. So we Google, we would go to the library, but the library now has online resources, right? Or if I know someone, if I have an acquaintance or I have a friend who I can reach out to, I'll send an email, or I will encourage my child, my older children, to send an email themselves. So their tech is coming into play. So we're not just using tech for social things. We're using tech to actually be engaged in the real world. So if you have a question, reach out to the person you have the question with. Reach out to the person who could help you with that question. Let's be curious about this together. Let me sit with you so that we can research it together. So not feeling like you have to take on the burden of knowing everything, but helping your child to be curious and protecting their innate curiosity and their confidence to inquire by supporting them, by saying, let's be curious about this together. When your child is feeling emotional, when you're feeling emotional, right? But especially when a child is emotional or displaying emotion, what feels helpful right now? When they're like concentrating intensely, what feels helpful right now? And they may not know, and being comfortable enough to give them the space to figure it out. What feels helpful right now? As you're moving from activity to activity, I've seen so many of these beautifully organized schedules floating around the internet, Instagram and Facebook. I think they're awesome. They are wonderful if you can adopt them for your home. They're a nice framework, I like to say, a nice baseline. Because one of the key things that you'll find are going to be most valuable to you as you are balancing working and facilitating home-based education is this idea of being flexible and adaptive. So we have these beautiful schedules that sometimes we can work by the letter to the number to the amount of hours, and it just works perfectly every time. And then in other times it's going to be like a fluid dynamic thing. And so being able to be open and flexible to that is going to be necessary. So using language like transitioning, right? Let's transition from this activity to the next activity. Now I think it would be a good idea if we transition from this to this. So it gives the person that you're trying to move, the people that you're trying to move, this idea, okay, of fluidity. And now I need to come to a stopping place and begin moving my thoughts and my actions and my behavior on to the next thing. And it helps get you in the mindset of moving on. Let's transition to another powerful phrase or empowering phrase that I use a lot at my house is I hear you, right? Don't we like to be heard? We like when people are listening to us. When our children are trying to express big feelings, we call them big feelings at our house. When they are trying to express confusion of whatever kind, when they are upset about something, being able to be heard is powerful. So you just simply saying 3 words, I hear you, and pausing, not trying to change how they feel, but letting them make their journey and you being there to partner along with them as well. I hear you, and just pausing at that. Letting them be with their feelings and you bearing witness offers a lot of dignity and respect to the child. Okay, and as you're having these conversations, as you all, as families are moving in various households into these transitions of, okay, the curriculum is coming down from the teacher, the emails are coming in, we can have conversations now with our children and with our partners and in the household as a family and make commitments. We can say, let's commit. And one of the things that we like to commit to in our house is respect, right? Let's commit to respecting each other. So when we get upset, when we get angry, when our feelings get big, when we're frustrated, I always say your feelings can get as big as they need to get, but we will always show respect. I respect you, you respect me. So that calls in for even our youngest children, this idea of, okay, I need to bring awareness to how I'm moving my body, how I am communicating with my parent or with my sibling. I'm very upset right now, and that is okay. So not trying to make their feelings go away, but inviting them to know what it's like to move into the world and to have big feelings and to need to be able to manage those feelings real time. So your feelings can get as big as they need to get. If you need to take time away, use words. So communication is another thing that we like to encourage, but we commit to respect. So establishing commitments. So at this point, it could be we commit to having patience with each other as we're learning this process. I commit to being patient with you. I need you to commit to being patient with me as I'm learning how to do all of this. So being transparent and letting little people know, because they're so perceptive, letting them know that this is a transition. We are moving through this together. This is a life skill that they'll need to develop, right? So being able to be communicative around it. Let's commit to being patient with each other and respecting one another. Can we do that? So asking the question, giving space for them to respond. And I talk a lot about making journeys, right? So another thing that it's helpful to know as a parent facilitator is that your child is making a journey. They are making their own journey. You are making your journey. So something that you might say is, they're making their own journey. I'm making mine. We're in this moment together. How do I want to show up? That's simple. So they're moving through their emotional responses. They're moving through their challenges, through their fun. They may show up looking a way that doesn't feel good to us or right to us, but feels very right to them. So we have to figure out a way to come into witness of that, letting them make their journey, supporting them age appropriately where needful, and deciding how we want to show up in that moment. It's up to us to decide how we want to come alongside at every moment. And each moment is going to be different. And again, referring back to that personal power seat, deciding, okay, in this moment, my child is getting on my nerves real bad. Real bad. They got attitude. They're throwing things. They're storming away. They're doing all kinds of things, right? Because they are their own people making a journey. They may be having an awful day. They're really disappointed because everybody's saying no and nobody has time and all these things are happening. But being able to acknowledge that they are making their journey, and however, and as their parent facilitator, often we get the rawest emotions because they're with us. They feel the most comfortable and confident with us. So being able to say and stand away, distancing yourself. Remember, I talked earlier about giving yourself space. So being able to stand away and know just inwardly that they are making their journey, and it's my job in this moment to support them and to find the ways that work best. Some children really like for you to bear witness and be present, and if that works for you to be present to all of that, then do that. If it doesn't work for you to be present and you both need space, being able to make sure the child is safe, let them know I'm here for you when you are, I'm here for you, and it helps me to be able to hear you more, talk to you more, be present with you more when you talk to me this way, right? And if when you're ready to do that, I'm here, let's do it, right? So being able to, in every case, decide how far you can be. Sometimes you can be right there with the child, just bearing witness. Other times you both need to be in different rooms for the child's safety and yours, right? It could be different depending on the scenario. So being able to just be aware of the differences, right, in the journeys, your journey and theirs. Okay, so when we're talking, so this time really is an opportunity. We're home with our kids a lot more lately. We can ask them questions like, what are you excited about right now? You know, what are you excited about? What's new in your world? There are some really great like conversation prompters, cards like Best Self. There are lots of, and I don't want to get into all the brands because that's not why I'm doing this call tonight, but there are so many ways to engage with children in conversation and have them engage with you so that you can get to know them. As working parents, I meet a lot of parents who sometimes feel bad about the fact that there are things about their child and their children's personality that they don't know because they haven't been able to spend time with them. So being able to take the time now in this opportunity, we'll call it, to be home more with your child, ask them what they're excited about lately. what's making you happy, and then notice when they begin to swell and smile and they have a pep in their step, and then notice when they cave in and cower, right? So what things are you curious about? What things are you excited about? Saying things like, let's talk about that. Tell me, what kind of world would we live in if you were in charge? So all these discussion prompters. And then lastly, one more boundary thing is I'm at sensory overload. I say that a lot in my house. I'm at sensory overload. I love you guys. I need about 5 minutes with nobody saying my name, and I'll be right back to you. So again, all of these things that help us to set the boundaries are helpful. What questions does anybody have so far as we're getting ready to move into what to study as we are thinking about home-based education? How are y'all feeling? Is any of this helpful so far? I see some folks on the live. Thank you all. Hey, Shankari. Thanks, everybody. Okay. I'm glad y'all are finding this helpful. Is this a question for me? Am I present all of the time? And so when we say present, is Charity, are you asking me, am I physically in the home all of the time? Or are you asking me, am I aware of myself all the time? I want to be sure I'm clear about your question. And I could probably answer both of them while I'm doing that. Are you present? Are you able to do other things in your house, or is it primarily? Oh, yes, absolutely. So right now I'm sitting at my desk. So the question is, are you able to do other things in your house, or is it primarily with the kids? So I do have, and we just moved. So I don't know if you can notice around me, it's a little disheveled. I literally just moved into this house 2 weeks ago. But in other homes, I've had literally like my photography equipment set up in another space in the house. I've had a desk set up in another space in the house. I do have a brick and mortar location for one of my businesses that I go to. I see clients there part-time, actually less than part-time during the week. When I am home, I do my best to have my work happening. Now, if I'm sitting down doing core scholastics work with my older children, so they're at their laptops working on a math curriculum, or my teenager has her full curriculum is online. So if they're there with their laptops, I might be there with my laptop as well, doing email administration. So I may be physically present with my children, and then I may also not be in the house at all. So it depends. With now things being quarantined and life is different. Again, I'm speaking in reference to what was before. So if we're thinking about now in terms of being quarantined, for instance, I'm having this phone call with you and everybody's in bed. So if there is a time when independent study is happening, when each child, especially the older children, are able to do that independent work on their own a lot easier, my 7-year-olds may not be as easy to stay to themselves. They may want to be somewhere nearby me. Sometimes one needs to be in my lap, so I may be sending emails. So these are like all realistic things. My 7-year-old may in fact be with me. Sometimes they just want to be near me. Other times they're just way off somewhere. So being able to be adaptable and flexible, these things are very real skills to have when you're thinking about home-based education while you're working. So and that's why these time periods in the early morning, if you can have them, or midday or late at night, are going to be invaluable to catching up on work. So if you have this sort of arrangement, and my vision for society is that employers and bosses will take into consideration this new paradigm that we're in, and work with folks who are at home with their kids. Now that you have children, especially now as we're moving in this next week or two, if this goes longer than a couple of weeks though, there's going to need to be a completely new adaptation to what home looks like when you're at home, right? What home looks like. And so being able to have the time to massage it so that you can find the rhythm that works best for your children, your family, your work demand. I am self-employed, so I have a lot more agency and autonomy, It's taking us a long time, lots of trial and error, many years to come to something that works ideally for us and our family. Now we do have something that works where my husband and I switch off with the children. There are two of us, so we do have that luxury. I give thanks for that, where we can tag team. We have older children now, so, and even when they were younger, I had my older kids when they were 7 and 8 reading to the younger kids for a time. While they were reading to the kids, I might have been taking a nap. I might have been, preparing lunch. I might have been trying to clean something or fold some laundry. And then that when I do intend to have some core sort of curriculum things here, but things like folding clothes and home hygiene, we call it, taking care of home, those are things that the kids help with. So there are things that happen around the house that they actually can lend hands to, that free you up to go and do work that you need to do inside the house. That may be home related or maybe professional work related. I hope that answers your question, Charity. Let me know if it doesn't. So yes. Okay. So key terms. All right. So I said adaptability, flexibility, commitment, releasing. Again, lots of releasing. It's going to be a lot of releasing, y'all. It's going to feel so good. We're going to be releasing day by day, hour by hour, being present in the right now, right? Releasing whatever was going on back there and being fully present in the now. Unlearning this concept of school. So we think about school as being something that happens inside the walls of the school from between the hours of, what time does school start these days for y'all? 9 versus 7? I don't know. My timing is different. 8. So from 8 to 3, this is when school happens, right? Fall to spring, this is school. School happens during these hours, right? We're going to unlearn that concept for a little bit and think outside the box. School may happen for you at a different time than that. It may need to be happening. It may be better that it's happening on the weekends or in the evenings or some combination, some hybrid of the two. So being able to be flexible with the idea of when school should be happening. It may be helpful to your child to keep the rhythm that they normally have. So you have to just kind of feel all of that out, but be open. Everybody say, hey, Will. My husband trying to be discreet and not at all. So yes, be flexible to the idea that school may need to happen outside of traditional hours, right? And that may be the thing that works best for your work schedule. And again, partnering. So how do we do this within the constraints that we're in? Okay, so are there people nearby you that are being very diligent about self-containment, about sanitation protocols that you can partner with? Do you have older children that you can partner with? Like, what is happening so that if you need to leave the house, you can do that safely and the child is safe and engaged? Or can the child come with you? Like, what is happening? We don't want the children out in an exposed scene right now where they have the potential to engage with this virus. But if they're going to be at home, just be flexible about how and when school happens. So looking at lesson planning, and again, we're going to be really flexible about this. So generally speaking, in my household, core academic work usually takes about 2 or 3 hours per day. It is not all day long. We are not trying to replicate what happens in the school setting. The children do not necessarily, at this time, have desks that they're sitting at in a row, and we're not ringing a bell, and we're not moving from thing to thing in the same way that they would have that set up in a school setting. So generally speaking, school is happening between the hours right now of 9 to 12. And my older children have their math is based online. They have a math curriculum that's based online. They have social studies and science that's based in textbooks and workbooks, and also lectures that we do, conversations that we have. And then math, science, English, reading, right? So those are the core things of reading, writing, and math. We make sure that in that 3 hours, those things at least are happening. And then there may be, on these other hours, the rest of the hours in the day, there's independent study, right? I have a child who's very interested in space. I have a child who's very interested in art and music and filmmaking. I have a child who's very interested in culinary arts. And so during the day, those children are in their independent study. They're helping each other. They're reading to each other. I'm reading with them and to them. We're cooking together. We are working out. Dad is working out. We're outside walking in the trail, or we're inside doing yoga, or we're wrestling, or we're having Nerf gun fights. We're doing menu planning for the rest of the week. So we're taking the time to talk about, what does it take to feed a family? How much money does it take to budget through this, and this? These are the things that we're doing. We are learning folding. We're learning dusting. We're learning how to clean a toilet properly. We're learning how to sweep a floor properly. And this is from the time the children are 3 years old. So we can learn to adapt the way that we are doing our day-to-day, to try to slow it down and see, okay, how many ways can I engage my child in this work so that it's not stressful for me, and it's not stressful for them, and it gives us space to engage with each other. So the core things like reading, writing, math happen, and they could be, your teachers may send from your various school systems may send you online resources. They may have meeting times online where the child can engage. But I would say that if that is not happening, to look for those 3 things: reading, writing, math activities, and the teachers who are here with me can chime in. Those core things are happening. And then the rest of the day, be a family. Just be together. Have fun together. Play. Stay 6 feet away from your neighbor that you may see outside, but go for a walk, right? Be outside. Get on the back deck. Make chalk drawings on the sidewalk, right? Cook a meal together. Plan a meal together. There are things that you can do, like watch. There are all sorts of documentaries on Netflix right now. People are providing all sorts of free resources, things that I have paid out of pocket for, and I'm looking at that are like completely free now. I'm like, oh my gosh, all right, this is an opportunity for everybody. I'm so grateful that we all now get access. Can I get some of my money? No, just saying, can I get my money back? But I'm grateful that the doors are now open and we have so much at our disposal. We just have to facilitate the connection. Find out what the child is interested in and find a documentary that feels relevant. Sit down and watch it together. Find a book through the library that may be available online, because now libraries have audio versions of things available, and they have online versions electronically that they are available. So there are lots of different ways that you can connect. Who do you know that's a friend, that's an expert in a thing that you can FaceTime or that you can Zoom with and say, hey, can you have a conversation with my child about blah, 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 right? So you give your friend, you have another opportunity for human connection. The child has an opportunity for human connection. Are there any peers that they can connect with, right? So we have that as well. An opportunity for each person to reach out to a peer, especially now in this paradigm that we're in. Reach out to a peer. The 7-year-olds reach out to a friend. The elementary school kids reach out to a friend. The high schoolers, how many friends can we reach out to? And then my husband and I take time to reach out to people outside of our home. And then we connect with each other. So having alone time is very important as well. So find out your child's unique interests. So I talked about physical education. I don't know if spiritual education is an element for any of you in your homes, but now is a great time to sit down around whatever are your personal ideals, your family ideals that you want to pass down. Learn about, I have a note here about history, their story, her story, and our story, right? There are all these different perceptions that you can study. Take some time to learn about your local history, your family history. See how many things you haven't talked about yet and come into conversation around that. So yeah, 2 hours of academic work, opportunity for independent exploration, opportunity for play, help with home hygiene, opportunity for virtual connection, opportunity for reading, free writing, and helping with meals. So that's like a simple sort of outline. I hope that that's helpful when you think about how you may want to pull things in that feel most relevant for your kids and your family and your day when you think about curriculum. And when you think about your work schedule, think about what is the largest chunk of time that I can put in for myself. Will it be in the morning, in the afternoon, or the evening, where I can focus and create the most space for myself to be focused on work? And what kind of rituals can I put in place so that I can preemptively ensure that when I come to the time that I need to give to my professional work and the time that I need to give to my children, that I am supple, that I have drank water, that I have nourished my body, that maybe I have moved my body, I've done some dancing or some stretching, whatever feels good to you. I know I'm a dancer, but everybody else may not be. Find what feels good to you, right? And make sure you're doing something that nourishes you so that you can get those things done. I hope that this has been helpful to you all. If you want to go deeper into any of the work that I'm talking about, when I'm talking about the personal power seat, there are those opportunities that are available to you through any of my online coaching options and also through the book here, Life as We Design It, that was published a couple of years ago and is available on Amazon. So feel free to throw anything at me. Does anybody have additional questions that I can address here? We have been on this call now for 2 hours. I'm sorry, 1 hour. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. It's 1 hour. That's right. 9 is here we go. 1 hour. Okay, I did good. What questions do y'all have? Anybody have a question? I see lots of people here. Thank y'all for joining. What questions do you have before we say goodnight? I'm reading. Okay. All right, so the main thing is, y'all, don't forget your personal power seed. There are questions coming in, so don't disconnect yet. But I want you all to remember that. Remember what it feels like to be calm. To be seated squarely in your personal power seat. Particular sources for milestones or curriculum for different ages that you... Oh, hold on. Particular ages that you would recommend. Okay, so one of the easiest ways to do this, or one way to do it, I know that for the way that we do it in our house, is we look for the scope and sequence for the, now we look at Virginia, we look at Albemarle County schools, and we may look at other schools in the nation to kind of see what are kids in first grade, second grade, third grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, 11th grade doing right now. So we look for this scope and sequence. And that's kind of how we keep an eye on milestones. Curriculum sources, again, the answer to that question is that there are infinite sources. So I would say to you that a good place to start is with your child's interests. And if you don't have a good handle on that, then connect with their teacher and see what's happening in the school already so that you don't go down the rabbit hole of getting lost in all the curriculum, because there is literally so much. I can't say that enough in enough words, that there's a lot. And so you just kind of have to get a sense of what are first graders doing, second graders, on, and get a sense of your child's interests, kind of where they are. Connect with the teacher if you can to see how your child learns best. If your child is someone who really has to use their hands to grasp a concept, or if your child is someone who hears best or has to see it done. So you have to kind of get a sense of that. And then find from there, you'll have keywords, and that'll help you search for what's going to be best for your child. How do you handle when kids say no to the next activity? How do I handle when a child says no? It really depends, because sometimes their no is valid and means no. And so we may have to find a way to pivot. Okay, I may offer 2 alternatives that back them into what I need them to do, right? Or I may, in fact, just honor their no. It really is case specific. But if we're talking about moving through the day, the homeschool day, or the home-based education day, and we're moving from activity to activity, it really is about tuning into, okay, well, are they feeling stressed? Are they overwhelmed? Okay, if they're saying no, just honoring the fact that they've given you a no and being curious about where that's coming from. Offering them options. You don't want to give too many options, because then you're going to be stuck at that, right? So try to limit it to 2. That's a rule that I try to keep, I think, in the back of my head is, 1, I try to acknowledge where my child is when they're saying no. And then secondly, if I really need them to transition to something, I try to give them 2 options. And one of them is the one that I really need them to do, and the other one is the one that I'll settle for. I hope that helps to answer the question. I have some links recommended by Seth. Okay, here we go. Some folks that want to share some links. I would say, Maggie, you can drop that into the chat if it's helpful. What documentaries have you watched that I would recommend? Oh my gosh, there are so many. I actually just pulled up a listing, and I can put that in one of these chat boxes. In fact, I will send it back out. So the people who are on Zoom, I can send this out because I don't see it right now unless I can find it the next few seconds. There is literally a list of like 150 educational documentaries. One that our family has been watching recently is 100 Humans. I don't know if anybody's seen that on Netflix, and so we've been watching it with our 10-year-olds, and actually the 7-year-olds watched a couple episodes as well. But it's just about so many different aspects of human nature, and that's one that we've watched recently, and I would recommend it. One of my children loves animals and nature, so anything that has to do with big cats, birds, reptiles, this child wants to see it and will sit and watch it until her face melts off if you let her, but you can't. So anything that's animal related. There's lots of space documentaries out. Again, I told you I have one child who loves space. And then there's a lot of history stuff that's out on Netflix right now as well. Curriculum is very overwhelming, and kiddos have different learning styles too. That's very true. Second grade links, that's helpful. Okay, I agree. If you're looking for milestones, so that's the scope and sequence, or SOLs could help. Thank you, Adele. Adele is a teacher. I don't know if she's still on the call. Using their time to teach what they really want to learn is going to be powerful. You can always tie the milestone to their interests. Yes. All right, that's looking good, y'all. Now, my phone died, and so I lost this other link here in Instagram, but somebody I saw a question about my rituals. And so my rituals tend to be very nature oriented and elemental. So I do a lot of stuff with water, breath, candles, and reminders like crystals or shells or sand. So the things that I do, like in the morning, again, when I say nature, the sun and the moon are very helpful and grounding to me. Being barefoot in nature is very helpful and grounding to me. Taking mindful showers. So, not just getting in the shower and lathering up, but bringing mindfulness to that ritual. So I'll light a candle perhaps, or I may have the lights off. Whatever the case, I'm using my imagination to release the day when I get in the shower, or if it's the end of the day, or if it's at the start of the day, I'm trying to energize myself. So I'm thinking about how I envision my day coming, right? What do I want to do in the day? How do I want to show up in my day? And I'm thinking about cleansing and restoring myself as I walk into it. So that's one ritual. I also have this ritual again where I set my desk up the night before, so that when I get up at 5:45, my alarm goes off, I can just come and sit at my desk, open up the blinds, light my candle, grab my pen, turn on my timers. I write for 25 minutes each morning, and I can just sit down and do that. Other rituals that I have are grounding breaths. So I do that when I am noticing that I am super stressed. My kids are really just on a particular day. And I might just begin to just breathe. And my children know I actually also may start singing. So they notice that if mama's singing in a certain way, that they may need to redirect themselves. And that happens often. Not often, but often enough that they know to do it. So grounding breaths. Let's see, I probably check in 3 times a day for that. So in the morning, I'm doing the grounding breaths, and I do dancing in the morning too. So I have playlists that I use if I'm trying to focus on a certain manifestation for that particular day. If I'm trying to release tension or stress from my body, I may have a certain playlist. If I'm trying to remind myself of my power seat, I may have a certain playlist. So there are certain things that I move my body to. that happens in the morning. Again, other rituals are things like making sure that I have something to drink. So these mason jars of water that are filled up. So making sure that I'm hydrating myself and at least sipping water if I haven't been able to drink huge quantities of water in a day for whatever reason. So having water available to me. I hope that answers some of the ritual questions. And the hand washing and essential oils. I have lots of rituals, but dabbing something that revives me or grounds me, I'll dab it at the nape of my neck or at my temples and on my wrists, and it'll kind of help ground and center me. I'll be able to, when I'm talking and I move my head, I get a whiff of whatever that thing is and it grounds me. So yeah, I hope that's helpful too. So what else is left here? Who else is here? I see a bunch of people left on the call still. Let me know if more questions are coming through or if anything else is lingering. Again, and there is this opportunity I did want to extend to. I wanted to give away a free seat in the online class that that is running now, which again just talks about it's called I Drive My Life, and it's about deepening down into that driver's seat awareness. And I wanted to give a seat. It's an online self-paced course. I wanted to give that away free tonight to someone who will email me 2 or 3 sentences that describe your vision for the next couple of weeks for yourself and for your family. And the first person to do that, to send that to the email address that my assistant will drop, Gloria will drop in the chat. If Gloria's still with us. Is she here? Gloria, you still there? The first person to email to that address will get a free seat in the class. Just wish you can do this check-in next week. This is a culture shock. Oh, I see. Yeah, well, that's something that I can think about. There is the email. So whoever sends that email gets a free seat to whoever's the first person to get that email in. So it'll be a timestamp to get that in, that to the email address gets a first seat in that course. It is a $500 value, and it is 31 weeks. 31 sessions worth of information that goes deep into driver's seat awareness. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and send that information over. And anyone else who's interested in that course, that's available too. There are free copies for the book to people that pay in full for the class tonight. And I think that's it, y'all. Somebody has listed here in the chat that they like to do this check-in again next week, and mentions culture shock. And I hear that. I can definitely keep in mind and just kind of linger with that and meditate on it and see about my own capacity for that. Would that be helpful for other people to just have a space to check in? And what kinds of things would you want to check in about? That would be helpful for me to know as well, so I can see what I am able and available to do. Feel free to drop that in the chat also. Okay. What other thoughts do we have as we are transitioning away from this call? Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Jillian. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, Kaisha, Megan. Y'all are all rock stars, and you have this. You've got this. You got it. I believe you can. Just stay grounded. Keep your feet planted. Think about the bottoms of your feet when you're feeling the crazy, right? When you're feeling the overwhelm, the fear, the anxiety. Just think about the bottoms of your feet, the soles of your feet, the place that's holding you up. Think about finding the place where you don't feel the pull to the right or the left or the front or the back, right? Just be here. Be here and now. Okay. Thank you all again. And we look forward to connecting again soon. Y'all email me, send me all the feedback. The chat will be open here. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing y'all next time. All right. Take good care and have a restful night.